I will be back. Used to bump the Carter 3, and my rolling chain proud irony. Think my hard work like little.
Hello, whispering about rap's so-called reincarnated tiny Tupac. Twin was slim, but the spotlight looking dim. Rumors say his tour might get chopped short, and the whispers only got louder when Sizzle dipped from the GNX show. According to the chatter from the OVO camp, Kendrick's concert tickets were barely moving. Reports claimed they weren't selling at all, and that silence in the box office started making noise on the timeline.
People think you got a procedure done.
Really?
Yeah, an ab one.
Really?
Did you do that?
No. People do it all the time?
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
You've never done that?
No.
Okay.
People also say that I got a BBL, right? They call me BBL Drizzy, so.
Oh, that's true. Did you?
I don't know if my wagon looked crazy when I walked in here, but.
So the real question is this: is Kendrick's legendary status untouchable, or is his crown starting to slip while the numbers show static instead of motion? That's where I come in. I'm here to peel this whole thing back and break it down, bar for bar, headline for headline. Because somebody's got to dissect the drama, debunk the noise, and tell you what's really going on.
Why you say it so sassy?
Because that's how you talk. You talk so sassy.
No, I'm saying, no, bro, don't talk to me like that. Like,
Then you don't-
I don't even know who those kids are. Are you crazy?
Wait, you actually don't know who those kids are?
No, I just asked you who they are. What the f?
Well, can I get the song too? Like,
I'm in Berlin. What the f? I
What?
don't even know.
when do you get home?
I'll see you soon, bro.
Okay, pull up on me after tour. Bye. Bye, Drake.
All right, Drake, have a good one, bro.
I love y'all boys, though.
Love you, Drake.
Love you, bro.
But before we dive too deep, you already know the drill. Slam that like button like a gavel, hit subscribe like you mean it, because the tea I'm about to spill is scorching. Now let's shift gears to the one and only Champagne Papi, Aubrey Drake Graham. Yes, the gaveling Graham has officially entered his Goldilocks era.
Chanelli on him. Long way from Houston, Texas, long way from home, but.
This man went from hosting Gossip Girl sleepovers with Bobby Altoff to cozy late-night phone flirtations with streamer Aiden Ross to suddenly showing up in full Marilyn Monroe vibes at Oktoberfest rocking dresses that had the internet gasping. And let's keep it real. We've seen this movie before. The last time a rapper pulled up in gowns, heels, and bold fashion statements, it was Young Thug in his Jeffrey and Barter 6 eras. And what followed were some of the most creative projects of his career. So maybe, just maybe, Drake stepping into this Marilyn-coded energy, rocking dresses, and play flirting with Aiden Ross isn't just trolling. It could be him tapping into a whole new creative bag that nobody saw coming. The culture is still reeling after the so-called big red button moment. The diss heard round the world that Iceman dropped in episode 3. That button wasn't just pushed, it detonated, sending shockwaves through the entire industry and dragging Kendrick Lamar's name right into the blast zone. Now, what makes this even juicier is that Kendrick himself quietly stepped away from the North American leg of his GNX Tour. And here's where the chatter starts getting messy, because while the headlines praised the tour's success, the numbers told a story that wasn't all Kendrick's to claim. See, Kendrick wasn't carrying this monster run solo. He was co-headlining with SZA, and trust me, the internet had plenty to say about that arrangement. A lot of OVO loyalists were clowning, saying SZA was the one keeping the ship afloat, calling her the real draw and the real ticket seller. SZA is a global R&B and pop powerhouse with crossover appeal, while Kendrick's audience, though loyal, doesn't always stretch into those same mainstream pop lanes. Even DJ Academics pulled up to one of the shows and spilled his own tea, saying half the crowd wasn't there for Kendrick at all. They were screaming for Zay. And here's the kicker. Even though the tour was branded around Kendrick's album and his name was plastered across every poster, the W's weren't all his to collect. Sure, the records broken were monumental, But you can hand Kendrick full credit when half the engine was powered by SZA's fanbase. Still, let's not downplay the scale here. This wasn't some arena tour with 20,000 heads per night. These were stadiums, massive venues holding 45,000 up to 85,000 bodies at a time. That's a level of dominance most rappers never touch. Think about it. Drake has never mounted a full stadium tour in his career. Travis Scott has sold out stadiums but never stitched them together for an entire run. The only other rapper to pull it off? Jay-Z, but even then, he had Beyoncé as his co-headliner on the On the Run 2 tour back in 2018. So yeah, Kendrick was playing on rare turf, but the debate remains, was he the king in those stadiums, or just sharing the throne with SZA? Let ES get this straight. The GNX Tour wasn't just big. It was history in motion. In terms of venue size, scale, and profits, this run shattered boundaries that most rappers couldn't even dream of touching. By the time it wraps up, it's set to claim the crown as the highest-grossing hip-hop tour of all time. Period. For context, the current record holder is none other than Drake, whose 2023 It's All a Blur tour pulled in around $389 million across 80-plus shows. That is a massive number, but watch how quickly it starts to look shaky next to Kendrick's math. Because here's where it gets crazy. The GNX Tour numbers dropped for just 23 shows, and the total gross was already sitting at $256 million. Do the math, that's an average of more than $10 million per night. And remember, this isn't 80 shows. This isn't months on end of grinding city after city. This is less than a third of Drake's tour stops, already racking up close to 2/3 of his entire haul. That's dominance on a level the game hasn't seen before. By the time the final show closes, there's no doubt GNX will leave every other hip-hop tour in the dust.
We gon' blow, we gon' beyond, whoa. Hey. Hey.
And that right there answers the big question people kept asking after the battle. Was Kendrick's momentum just hype from pushing the big red button on Drake? Was his shine just temporary smoke from the beef? The answer is clear now. No. These numbers prove that Kendrick's GNX album didn't just shake the culture, it translated into cold, hard success in real time. His draw is undeniable. But here's where things get messy again. SZA. Let's not forget she was the co-headliner on the North American leg. And while that helped boost the numbers, now the GNX machine is shifting gears. Kendrick is packing up, taking his talents overseas, and stepping on stage without SZA at his side.
Now possessed by a spirit that they can't take and used to bump the Carter 3. Held my rolling chain proud, irony. Think my hard work like Lil Wayne down, what up? Fucking crazy, everybody just from...
And that's exactly where the OVO loyalists are circling back in, ready to pick apart the narrative and question if Kendrick can carry this momentum on his own. So here is the question that had the internet scratching its head. If Kendrick Lamar is really struggling overseas, why aren't the big hip-hop outlets reporting it? Why the silence? That's why we're here. Because if the majors won't cover it, we're gonna break it down ourselves. The word on the ground is that Kendrick's shows in Brazil and Argentina are moving slow. Tickets not flying the way you'd expect for a global superstar, even with promoters discounting prices every couple of days just to try and get seats filled. That narrative has OVO loyalists in overdrive, clowning Kendrick the same way people once clowned Drake. But let's rewind, because context matters.
Come rock one more song with y'all. I said, can we do one more?
Yeah!
People love to drag Kendrick for this now, but those same voices conveniently forget what happened to Drake earlier this year.
Shout out to my guy _Snoopy.exe. He hooked you guys up with some insane footage from this concert we're about to play in this video.
Back in February, while Kendrick was rocking the Super Bowl halftime show, Drake was across the world trying to lock down his own run in Australia and New Zealand. And let's be real, the numbers weren't adding up. I did the research back then, went to the official ticketing sites myself. Front row seats for his New Zealand dates in March 2025. $45. That's not superstar demand, that's clearance sale prices. And what happened next was predictable.
I don't tell no lie about me, and I won't touch you. Thinking about no reaper, nigga, I'm reaping what I sow, okay? Benjamin and Jackson all in my house, like I'm Trojan. I hate when a rapper talk about going and somebody died, they turn it to dawn. What is it, the credits?
Drake quietly pulled the plug, canceling those shows and citing scheduling issues. But fans weren't buying that excuse. Rumors started swirling. Were these really cancellations for personal reasons, or was it because nobody was filling those seats? Then the tea spilled. He was spotted back in Toronto in family court that same month. So was it legal trouble? Was it low sales? Or was it both? By the summer, we finally got clarity, and the truth wasn't pretty. Those shows weren't postponed, they weren't rescheduled, they were straight up cancelled. The Australian leg evaporated, and the receipts showed exactly what people suspected all along. Drake's ticket prices had been slashed so low, and the demand was still so weak that promoters had no choice but to pull the plug. So now, fast forward, when people try to clown Kendrick for slow-moving seats overseas, let's not act brand new. Drake already lived through the same headlines, and worse. The difference is, Kendrick's GNX Tour is still breaking records overall, while Drake had to tuck tail and quietly admit defeat.
I said it's an any day one fans in the house tonight. I'm gonna be testing y'all. This is the first test. I say, pull up, sit down, come on. If you're having a good time tonight, say yeah. Take you on a trip down memory lane. What they want? This is not a rap on how I'm smelling crack and move cocaine. Here we go. Come on. Yeah. Brace yourself, I think you.
Once Drake's New Zealand dates vanished, it was official. Those shows were done. No reschedule, no makeup dates, just cancelled. The receipts were undeniable. Front row tickets were going for about $45 and still couldn't sell out. That's the part stans don't like to hear, but the truth is the truth. Take that information however you want, but the optics were brutal for Drizzy at the time. Now the tables have turned, and suddenly people are aiming the same accusations at Kendrick. The claim floating around is that he couldn't sell out the massive stadiums lined up for his Brazil and Argentina shows. And to be real with you, I went to check for myself.
Were you being metaphorical, or should it be taken as a threat?
Whatever you want to take it.
record reflect, don't take it as a threat.
Okay, what you want to do then?
I hopped on Live Nation and searched those exact dates. For both shows, Kendrick in Brazil on September 30th and Kendrick in Argentina on October 4th, the site hit me with the same message, unable to find event. Meanwhile, Kendrick's September 27th show in Colombia is still listed. Tickets are still available, no issue there. But for Brazil and Argentina, nothing.
I love y'all. And we ain't gonna make this just a special occasion. We gonna make it regular. So with that being said, I give you my word. Let's go. I will be back.
Now let's be clear, that could mean one of three things. Option 1, the shows are completely sold out and Live Nation pulled the listings. Option 2, the shows are being postponed and the back end hasn't been updated yet. Or Option 3, the nightmare scenario for Kendrick stans. The shows got cancelled outright. At this point, it's impossible to say for sure, but we'll know soon enough. And here is why the OVO loyalists are celebrating this uncertainty like it's Christmas morning, SCA. She's not on this overseas leg of the GNX Tour. Without her drawing power on these dates, Kendrick's carrying the load solo, and that's all the ammo Drake's camp needed to run wild online. To them, this isn't just a hiccup. It's proof of their favorite narrative, that Kendrick needs help to sell big, while Drake can do it alone. But let's not jump to conclusions too fast, because whether these shows are cancelled, postponed, or sold out, the story isn't finished yet. And how this plays out in the next few days could change the momentum of this Cold War all over again. This is Kendrick Lamar stepping into stadiums on his own name. No co-headliners, no safety net. If he's selling out back-to-back shows with 50,000 plus people in every single venue, that speaks volumes about his global impact. It's a powerful statement about his reach, especially since these aren't hometown arenas. These are international stages where fans are paying heavy to see him. But if he ends up canceling these shows due to low ticket sales, then the OVO stands will have a field day, pointing and laughing, saying the big red button Drake pressed left, Kendrick struggling to move tickets. One thing we do know with certainty, though, is this. Drake cancelled at least 4 shows down in New Zealand. And these weren't even mega stadiums. They were smaller venues compared to what Kendrick is now aiming to do in Australia and New Zealand come December. Let's not forget, when Drake was supposed to hit those New Zealand dates, tickets were selling for around $45. Even at that discount price, the demand was flat, and the shows mysteriously vanished from the schedule. Now, fast forward to Kendrick's GNX run. He just kicked off the first show of this new leg in Mexico, and this is where the microscope zooms in. Did it sell out? Did it flop? Did UMG swoop in with digital bots, padding the crowd with robots chanting every lyric? Or was this an organic win, a true reflection of Kendrick's dominance? Because I'll tell you this much.
If you could dominate for so long like Drake did, and then somebody could just come move you out the way, like, where's the loyalty or the love of the fans, right? It's like almost they didn't exist. It's a rough time, man. All he gotta do is, he gotta make another one. And that's how you win a war. You could lose a battle,
right?
But you gotta win the war.
Yes.
And that's what I pray that's what they over there focused on, the war, not the battle.
Are you surprised Universal ain't gonna sue?
Yes.
Whether that GNX show in Mexico turned out good, bad, or somewhere in between, it was most definitely a spectacle the industry couldn't ignore at all. Insane. So let's break it down properly. Both the lobby talk and the chatter about gentle grams. And unlike Drake, plenty of you guys have been telling me you've been Anita Max winning some free cash from playing mobile games. So I figured I'd put everyone onto something that almost feels too good to be true. But here's the real question. Would Kendrick actually pack it out? Would this massive Mexico show sell out, or would it flop? Just a couple days before opening night, Kendrick was carefully rehearsing inside the venue, making sure every detail was flawless. Somebody far from the arena even filmed him running transitions in this gigantic empty space. No crowd, just practice. And honestly, it was wild seeing that kind of precision. Check this out. Clearly, Kendrick was locked in. But were the bots locked in too? Would they magically appear to fill the stadium, or would this one expose the truth? The OVO stands were already circling like vultures, clowning the situation before the first verse even dropped. And when the opening act finally hit the stage, the shots fired online got even louder. Why? Because the venue didn't look packed. It didn't even look half full with wide gaps of empty seats staring back at the cameras. Oh man, that's gotta be a brutal sign, right? According to the trolls, this concert was already destined for disaster. No SCA to carry him, no guaranteed cosign energy, just Kendrick standing alone, staring down the critics. They mocked him, saying, "Why'd he think he could go overseas? The bots can't be deployed internationally. UMG only runs Spotify plays. The bots can't make it all the way over to Mexico, especially when the pressure is this extreme and the stakes are absolutely sky high." Oh yeah, I'm just gonna leave this here, and because the receipts don't lie. When the dust settled and the aerial shots of Kendrick's Mexico show started circulating online, the truth was impossible to deny. This place wasn't half full, it wasn't struggling, it was packed to the brim. Not a single empty seat in sight. If you didn't know better, you would have thought this was the world's biggest tech expo, a straight-up ChatGPT convention with robots, shoulder to shoulder, filling the entire stadium. The OVO stands tried to spin it, of course. They said, "Okay, fine, maybe the bots showed up in person this time, but bots can't make noise." They swore the atmosphere would be flat, dead quiet, a crowd of ghost seats. But then the videos dropped, and the noise was insane. This wasn't polite applause. This was 55,000 plus people screaming every bar, stomping the stadium floor, and rattling the air with chants that could be heard miles away. If those were bots, they were the loudest, rowdiest, most human-sounding bots ever built. And let's not forget the scale here. Kendrick wasn't doing this in his own backyard. This wasn't Compton, it wasn't LA, it wasn't even New York. It wasn't Drake's hometown of Toronto, where he managed 2 stadium nights in a row. No, this was Mexico, way overseas, foreign territory. And Kendrick still packed out a venue on a level that most rappers will never touch in their careers. And the show itself? Pure spectacle. Multiple angles of the crowd showed waves of fans locked in, from the floor to the rafters. At one point, Kendrick even performed Drake's favorite song just to twist the knife, and the place erupted. The visuals were fresh, updated from the North American leg. The stage design was different, sharper, like he wanted to remind the world this was a new chapter, not just a repeat run. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but from where I'm sitting, this looked like a masterclass. Sadly, I didn't get to see the show live myself. He skipped a lot of Canada this time around. But the clips, the footage, the fan reactions, they tell the story clear as day. Kendrick didn't just show up overseas, he owned it. And let us not forget, Kendrick made sure to touch down in Toronto for 2 nights back-to-back, and those were packed. Yet the OVO stands still tried to twist the narrative, cooking up conspiracies about empty seats. Their favorite argument? When the opening act hit the stage, the venue wasn't full. But let us keep it real. Name a stadium show where the crowd is fully seated during the opener. People are still outside, grabbing drinks, finding their seats, stuck in traffic. That's not a flop. That's just reality. And the proof is in the footage. The second Kendrick stepped on stage, the energy exploded, and the place was wall to wall with bodies. Now I promised I'd just show you bots in the crowd. We re-talking about the performance itself. And this is where Kendrick reminded everyone why he's in a league of his own. He kicked off the show with whacked up murals, and the visuals were insane. If you've seen the clips, you already know, this wasn't just a concert, it was a full-blown experience. And when Kendrick dropped that Wayne bar, the whole stadium erupted. It was one of those moments that gave chills, the kind of energy you only get when the music connects on a deeper level. And for anyone curious about the opening act that OVO trolls were trying to use as evidence the show was empty, that was Emanero and Paco Amoroso, an Argentinian hip-hop duo with a raw, experimental sound. Honestly, they were solid. The crowd was vibing, even if people weren't fully seated yet. That's the game. Openers aren't supposed to pack it out. They're supposed to set the stage. And by the time Kendrick came storming out, the stage wasn't just set. It was ready to explode. We even got this snapshot of Kendrick that just screams vengeance. The man looked like he was out for blood. And the stage design? Flames shooting sky high, twisting into shapes that almost looked like question marks. Was that intentional? Maybe Kendrick was asking the crowd a deeper question. Have you ever wondered if the OVO stands are really just working for me? The rabbit hole keeps getting deeper, and trust me, we're going to touch more on that later in this video. But let's lock in on the music for a second, because this is where Kendrick stamped his authority. He ran through one of my personal favorites off GNX, and the visuals were breathtaking. And yeah, if you believe the trolls, the crowd was just bots. But let me ask, who's gonna tell me Kendrick can pack a stadium with 50,000 screaming bots in Mexico? Because these so-called robots weren't standing still. They were losing their minds. Just look at what happened when Kendrick dropped Family Ties. The stadium erupted. Pure chaos. If those were bots, they were the loudest, rowdiest AI creations in history, because the noise shook the building. Camera angles from every side showed the same thing. Wave after wave of people bouncing, chanting, locked into every bar. And then came Euphoria. Still one of the wildest songs he's performed since the beef with Drake ignited. Everybody remembers the legendary moment he opened the pop-out concert with Euphoria, sending shockwaves through hip-hop and even making academics lose his mind on livestream. But now, on the GNX stage, the energy somehow felt even crazier. Tens of thousands of fans screaming every word, fists in the air, and the performance framed by fire and lights that made it look more like a revolution than a rap concert. N95 was another gem, a track people sleep on because Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers leaned into calm, stripped-back vibes. But live in a stadium? N95 hits different. The bass shook the seats, the crowd roared on cue, and it reminded everyone that Kendrick's so-called underrated tracks still crush in an arena setting. And honestly, you've got to take a step back and look at these crowds. These aren't just big shows. These are historic. This kind of turnout, this kind of energy overseas. It is something hip-hop hasn't seen on this level before. It deserves to be documented, studied, remembered. Kendrick isn't just touring. He's rewriting the blueprint of what a rap concert looks like. Just look at these views, the type of crowd shots that make history. And like I promised, I got something special for y'all this time. We're not just talking about rumors, not just showing aerial shots. We've got first-hand access, front row view, real boots-on-the-ground footage from somebody who was right there in the chaos. Shout out to my guy Snoopy, Exy, for hooking us up with this exclusive look at what actually went down inside Kendrick's Mexico show. No more guessing, no more debating. We've got the receipts. Now, I'll admit, it's frustrating that I can't play all the music for you here on YouTube. Trust me, if I could stream the entire show uninterrupted, I would. But copyright rules are what they are, and that limits how much of the raw concert energy I can pass on. Still, even without the sound, the visuals Snoopy captured are absolutely insane. The stage, the crowd, the atmosphere. It all tells the story. And here's the kicker. Snoopy didn't just walk in and get that spot. He had to grind for it. 11 hours of waiting, camping out, holding his place in line just to get close enough to touch the rail. That's not something you do for a half-empty show. That's not what you do for a flop. That's what you do when thousands of people are fighting for the same real estate, and the only way to lock in a front-row view is through patience and pain. Let's be real. This is general admission. No VIP seat with your name on it, no pre-assigned rows. If you want front and center for Kendrick Lamar, you earn it. You fight through crowds, you wait all day, and you sprint when those gates open. That's exactly what Snoopy did. And the fact that he had to wait nearly half a day just to get there? That's the ultimate clapback to OVO trolls claiming the venue wasn't full. If it was so empty, explain why fans were lining up for 11 hours straight just to touch the front barricade. This isn't just fan dedication. It's proof Kendrick's pull is very, very real. And you see why my guy Snoopy camped out for 11 straight hours, just to make sure he secured a dope spot. That dedication alone should tell you how serious this was. This wasn't some casual, halfway packed arena. This concert was extremely packed to the brim, shoulder to shoulder, wall to wall. And remember, this was without SZA. This was Kendrick headlining on his own. No co-pilot, no shared spotlight, just him commanding a massive stadium in Mexico. Now let's dive into the highlights, starting with my absolute favorite, Euphoria. The way the flames lit up during this song was unreal. In a stadium setting, it was pure chaos and beauty all at once. Then he brought it back to the good kid, MAAD City days with backseat freestyle. The visuals during that stretch were absolutely insane. Kendrick darting across the stage with the backdrop shifting like a living painting, and the transitions between songs hitting harder than ever. Check out Humble feeding directly into backseat freestyle. The energy spike was crazy. And again, let's give credit where it's due. The bots theory doesn't survive footage like this. You can literally hear the crowd explode for family ties, not just for the new catalog, but for the classics too. Every visual upgrade stood out, every flame, every transition, and the fans matched that intensity bar for bar. Look at how Kendrick slowed it down for MAAD City. That switch-up was genius, giving the crowd a new way to experience one of his most iconic tracks. Honestly, I'd love to hear that full-energy stadium version myself. But hey, he skipped my side of Canada, so I guess the bots couldn't be deployed there. And then came TV Off, which looked absolutely insane. Side note, DJ Mustard wasn't T there this time. He was only on the North American leg. But the show didn't T miss a beat. Kendrick still closed it out with strength, thanking the crowd, showering love, and proving once again why this tour is different. From there, we got Drake's favorite song moment, and then, in my opinion, the best footage yet of the actual skits. Huge shout out again to Snoopy, Exy for grinding 11 hours to deliver this front row look. And of course, the closer, another round of Euphoria. The so-called bots, they went absolutely feral, screaming, stomping, shaking the entire venue. This wasn't hype online. This was history, documented live and loud for everyone to see and hear in real time. And to all the OVO stans still trying to push the tired narrative that Kendrick only pulls these kinds of crowds because of Not Like Us, stop it. The footage doesn't lie. These fans aren't just here for one diss track, they're here for Kendrick's entire legacy. In fact, if you watch closely, the crowd reactions go even crazier for his older cuts. Songs like My get roars that rival the new era bangers. And when he slides into those seamless transitions, count me out melting into bitch don't kill my vibe. You realize this isn't hype-driven fandom. This is a decade plus of loyalty and catalog stacking paying off in real time. And then came the closing moment, the kind of scene that sparks endless speculation. After an insane set, Kendrick capped the night by telling the crowd, "I'll be back." Simple words, but heavy with meaning. He delivered it while standing in front of that iconic red GNX, the same wrapped car that first appeared in the album trailer. Remember, back then, there were two GNXs teased, one clean, one wrapped in red. Now, on stage with the flames blazing, Kendrick stood next to the red GNX as he promised his return. Coincidence? Or was he hinting at something bigger? Fans immediately jumped into conspiracy mode. Was this his way of teasing a GNX Deluxe, a follow-up project, a hidden second phase? Ever since GNX dropped, speculation has swirled that Kendrick had more in the vault. And given how he works, nothing is ever one and done. His art is fluid, constantly shifting, refusing to sit still. No two albums in his discography sound alike, and his creative process makes it clear. He lives in the present moment, crafting music that evolves with him. For that reason, I don't think we're getting a literal GNX Part 2. But something is brewing. The way he emphasized his return, the way he staged himself with that red GNX, it all feels like foreshadowing. If I had to bet, I'd say we'll get new material within the next 8 months. Think about it. GNX dropped nearly a year ago, and its anniversary is coming up in just 2 months. Meanwhile, Kendrick is set to wrap up this global GNX tour in Australia this December. The timing lines up too perfectly for him not to drop something major right after. I could absolutely see Kendrick heading straight back into the studio after wrapping up the GNX tour and cooking something up for mid-2026. The signs are everywhere if you've been paying attention. DJ Head flat out said Kendrick would be running the next 8 years. And let's be real, that wasn't some throwaway comment. It felt more like an insider's warning that the machine isn't slowing down anytime soon. Then there's the Squabble Up music video, which was packed with layered imagery hinting at double albums and extended projects. Kendrick doesn't put those visuals in by accident. He's always speaking in codes, dropping clues about what's coming next. Combine that with how fresh GNX itself was, a project where so much of the material was created just months before release. And it's hard not to believe there's more sitting in the vault. Take the GNX title track, for example. It was reportedly recorded only a couple of months before the album dropped. Same with a lot of his sessions with Mustard, and even the mysterious singer who appeared across the album's soundscape. Kendrick only discovered her a month or 2 before release. That tells me GNX was a last-minute creative burst, not a long stockpiled project. And when Kendrick works like that, it usually means he's got an entire stash of unreleased heat ready to go for the next phase. Which brings us back to the tour itself. Let's break down the Mexico setlist, because this was different from what North American fans got. And honestly, the changes feel intentional. To me, one of the wildest parts was watching him slide straight from Poetic Justice, yes, the collab with Drake, into the encore where he closed with Not Like Us. If that's not trolling, I don't know what is. That sequencing alone felt like a message. I'll perform the Drake collab, but I'll end the night with the nuke that buried him. Maybe I'm glazing here, but to me this setlist was perfection. It balanced the classics with the new joints, gave fans moments of nostalgia, and at the same time doubled as subtle storytelling. Kendrick knows exactly how to weaponize his catalog, and in Mexico, he weaponized it against his biggest rival while giving his core fan base the ultimate victory lap. So here's the setlist breakdown. Kendrick ran through about 28 songs in Mexico, and a huge chunk came straight out of the GNX bag. But sharp-eyed fans noticed what was missing. 2 of the biggest tracks from the project, the title track GNX and the Heart Part 6, didn't make the cut. And honestly, it makes sense why. Take the Heart Part 6. As iconic as it is, that track is a slow burn, a lyrical odyssey that takes you through Kendrick's entire come-up and career. Every verse is essential, and trimming it down would kill the magic. At the same time, the pacing doesn't exactly fit the stadium vibe. Stadiums demand energy, quick transitions, fire and fury. So while it's a masterpiece in headphones, it probably would have dragged live. Same deal with the GNX title track. It's a posse cut with a lineup of features, and if Kendrick performed it solo, it wouldn't hit the same. Those verses are written to bounce off multiple voices, so unless he brings out surprise guests, the track would lose its punch. Now, if I had one real critique of this setlist, it's that he barely tapped into his To Pimp a Butterfly catalog. We only got King Kunta and All Right. Don't get me wrong, those 2 songs absolutely rocked the stadium, but imagine the energy if he had pulled out Hood Politics or Wesley's Theory. Both would have gone nuclear in a crowd that size. And while I'm nitpicking, where's Meet the Grams? Yeah, I'm half joking, but can you picture the crowd reaction if he performed that diss live? The internet would implode. Fans would be hyped, Drake's stans would be furious, and hip-hop blogs would never stop talking about it. From Damn, he gave us the essentials, Element, Humble, DNA, all tracks that tear stadiums apart. From Good Kid, MAAD City, We got the legendary highlights as expected, but he completely skipped Untitled, Unmastered, and Section. 80. A live performance of He Power would have been insane, a crowd chant moment that could rival All Right. And here's the biggest snub, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. He basically ignored that entire album on this set list. For some fans, that's disappointing. For others, it's proof Kendrick has already moved on creatively. Either way, it sends a loud message. GNX is the centerpiece, and everything else right now is just seasoning. That was the last time I saw Kendrick live, during the Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers tour. And let me tell you, it was insane. The way he translated that heavy, layered album into a live performance was something else entirely. Which is why it still blows my mind that he skipped so much of it this time. Like, how do you not perform Savior or Silent Hill in a stadium? Those tracks would have had the crowd levitating. At least he gave us Rich Spirit, though. That was one of my early favorites from Mr. Morale, mainly because it's the most instantly digestible track on the project. A lot of the other songs on that album take time. You have to really sit with them, peel back the layers to appreciate their weight. But Rich Spirit, that's a vibe off the rip, and hearing it in a stadium hits even harder. He also included Count Me Out, another track that cuts deep live, with fans screaming every word back at him like a sermon. Maybe there's a reason he's not performing Savior right now. On that track, Kendrick made it clear, he's not your savior. But maybe he's flipping the narrative. Maybe he's saving it for later, to return and save hip-hop on his own terms. Remember, the new era Kendrick is pushing lines like, forget the big three, it's just big me. He's rewriting the mythology of the culture, positioning himself as the only one left standing, and maybe the setlist is designed to reflect that shift. Regardless of what was missing, the bigger picture was clear. Kendrick just rocked a crowd of 55,000 plus fans, bots or not, and left them all with the same message. He'll be back. And here's the kicker. He actually looks genuinely happy this time. The energy feels different, more free, like he's savoring the tour instead of just grinding through it. Compare that to Drake, who's been moving like a man under pressure, his captions cryptic, his energy looking drained. Kendrick, on the other hand, is glowing. And speaking of captions, I've got a clip of some of his most recent Instagram posts from this overseas run, just like he rapped on whacked out murals. That type of energy will make you move to Europe. And maybe he wasn't joking. Drake's been stuck overseas ever since this beef wrapped up, bouncing between Australia and Europe. But let S be real, he looks like he's begging to come home. Every post, every caption feels like a countdown clock, like he's scratching tallies on a prison wall. Subconscious or not, the vibe is clear. He's sad, restless, and just waiting for it all to be over so he can crawl back to his comfort zone, snuggle up with Bobby Altoff and Aiden Ross. Just look at the receipts. Scroll his Instagram and you'll see caption after caption about counting down the days until the tour is finished. He's not celebrating the shows. He's not hyping the energy. He's literally marking time, excited about the day he doesn't have to take another shower overseas. And don't even get me started on the shower situation. Whatever he's talking about, it doesn't sound like fun. And that is the bigger point. Drake doesn't look like he is enjoying any of this. Performing track after track that fans clown as Quentin Miller records, running through material that doesn't a T hit with the same authenticity it once did. The spark looks gone. Compare that to Kendrick, who's out here smiling, glowing, radiating joy on stage while rewriting hip-hop history. The contrast couldn't be sharper. And speaking of history, let's revisit the numbers, because this is where the OVO stands try to move the goalposts. They're spinning narratives that Kendrick's GNX shows are flops, but the math doesn't lie. Drake still holds the record for the highest-grossing hip-hop tour. His 2023 It's All a Blur run pulled in a massive $389 million across 83 shows. Even Drake admitted at the time he felt like a slave to Live Nation because of how many nights he had to grind out just to hit those totals. Now compare that to Kendrick. With the GNX Tour, he's only done 23 shows so far. But these weren't small arena stops. These were massive stadiums averaging $10 million a night. That AS already over $255 million in gross revenue off a third of the dates Drake had to drag himself through. Do the math. In less than half the effort, Kendrick is already breathing down the neck of Drake's record. By the time this tour finishes, it's not a question of if he passes Drake. It's a question of by how much. And while Drake looks exhausted and uninspired, Kendrick looks energized, hungry, and ready to keep pushing. The numbers, the vibe, the momentum, they're all on his side right now. In Europe, Drake is literally on Instagram talking about, "Only 35 more days until I can go home. Only 35 more days until I can go snuggle with Aiden Ross." That doesn't sound like a man enjoying himself. That sounds like a man stuck in a job he can wait to clock out of. And here's where the numbers get even messier. After cancelling all those New Zealand shows, after slashing front row ticket prices down to $45, Drake's Anita Max Win Tour pulled in $30 million total across about 200,000 tickets. On paper, sure, that sounds impressive, until you put it next to Kendrick's receipts, because Kendrick Lamar is doing $10 million a night. Let's break that down. Drake needed 200,000 tickets across roughly 10 shows, averaging 20,000 seats per night, just to touch $30 million. Kendrick. He does that same number in 3 nights. 3 shows. Less work, more money, bigger venues. The math doesn't lie. The scale is completely different. Now, Drake's defense has always been the same. I don't like stadiums. I prefer smaller venues. It's more intimate. It feels like karaoke with the crowd. That's cute, but let's be honest. Is this really by choice or is it by necessity? He's doing arenas because they're safe bets, smaller spaces he knows he can fill. Stadiums are a different beast. Stadiums separate the stars from the legends, and Kendrick's proving he belongs in that category every night. Meanwhile, Drake is slogging through these arenas, counting down the days, literally posting about how much longer until it's over. Ask yourself, how much fun could he really be having if he's marking his calendar like a prison sentence? If this was really about artistic intimacy, wouldn't he be glowing on stage the way Kendrick is overseas? Instead, all we see is a drained artist forcing himself through shows, while his rival is thriving in the biggest venues on the planet. Drake can spin it however he wants, but the truth is simple. Kendrick is outpacing him financially, outshining him creatively, and doing it on stages Drake either can't or won't touch. And the worst part? Fans are starting to notice. Drake swears up and down that he does these smaller venues because he loves it, because he thinks fans will have a better experience. But if that were really true, why keep canceling shows? Why cut dates when you claim it as all about intimacy and giving your fans the best possible vibe? If you cared that much, you'd show up every night, not bail when the numbers get shaky. And here's where it gets even pettier. On one of his recent Instagram posts, the ones where he's moving extra sassy in the captions, Drake wrote, "Oh, nice, more unsolicited advice from rappers we loved in 2005. The clip attached showed him dancing around, acting like a mob boss to some sing-songy background music, throwing up gun hand poses like he was starring in his own parody film. It was weird, and the internet noticed. But that caption, that's where the real drama is. Who was he talking about? Because that line could apply to a bunch of people. In recent months, we've seen him toss shade at Joe Budden, exchange subs with T-Pain, and constantly brush off any advice from older legends who paved the way. Instead, he's busy chasing the youth. Think about it. His collabs aren't with seasoned vets. They're with Central C, Yate, TikTok streamers like Aiden Ross, or influencers like Bobby Altoff. He is not building with the Culture S Foundation. He is latching onto whoever S hot in the moment, whoever can make him look young again. And that's why that caption hit people sideways. It wasn't just a shot at T-Pain or Joe Budden, or even any specific name. It was Drake declaring he doesn't care about the legends, doesn't care about the journalists, doesn't care about respecting the culture's roots. This is a man in crisis mode. A 38-year-old rapper going through what looks like a one-third life crisis, dissing artists we all grew up on, clowning rappers we loved in 2005, while desperately surrounding himself with 20-year-olds to keep up the illusion of relevance. And at the same time, he is out here ignoring the fact that his own career is being challenged in real time by Kendrick Lamar, who is proving night after night that his art, not gimmicks, is what fills stadiums and cements legacy. Drake's antics might keep him trending, but legacy isn't built on sassy captions and IG reels. It's built on timeless music, and that's where the cracks are showing. At some point, every artist has to face the truth. When the people stop rocking with you, the graceful move is to step back, regroup, and re-enter stronger. But Drake? He refuses. Instead of pulling back and letting the culture miss him, he keeps flooding the market with new music, and the results speak for themselves. The songs aren't sticking. They're not charting the way they used to. The magic formula that once made him untouchable is slipping through his fingers. And that's why so many veterans, people who've actually seen this game evolve decade after decade, are sounding the alarm. One of the latest voices? Memphis Bleek. He sat down with Shannon Sharpe and broke down exactly why Drake's current approach is backwards. The headline moment? Bleek called out Drake for going so far as to sue over a rap battle. In hip-hop, that's unheard of. It's the opposite of how legends built their names. Bleek compared it to the Jay-Z and Nas war. Back then, when fans thought Jay might have taken the L in the battle, his response wasn't to cry foul or run to the courts. It was to return with undisputed classics, albums that shifted the culture and reminded everyone why he was at the top. His attitude was simple. Okay, you think I lost? Cool. Watch me make timeless music and prove otherwise. And guess what? That approach worked. Jay came back bigger, stronger, and solidified his place in history. Bleek's advice to Drake was crystal clear. Do the same. Stop worrying about the battle chatter. Stop chasing every young trend. Stop suing over rap beef. Just go back to the studio, lock in, and come out with an album so undeniable that people have no choice but to respect it. But here's the catch. Drake doesn't seem to be listening. To him, Memphis Bleek is irrelevant. He's old. He's one of those rappers we loved in 2005, who Drake mocks in his captions. So of course he tunes it out. But the irony? That's the exact advice Drake needs most. Because if he keeps ignoring it, if he keeps chasing clout instead of crafting legacy, the day will come when people start saying, "Oh yeah, remember Drake? That washed-up rapper we loved in 2025. And that's why this next project, the Iceman album, is make or break. If he drops another mid-level effort that fades from memory in weeks, his dominance era is officially over. But if he can somehow tap into the energy of his prime and deliver a classic, that's his only shot at rewriting the narrative. Right now, it's legacy versus expiration date, and the clock is ticking. That is exactly why Drake should probably be listening to advice from the veterans, the ones who've lived through the highs and then watched themselves fall off or dip down. Those artists have perspective. They know the traps. They know what happens when you try to fight time instead of adjusting with it. And right now, it feels like Drake is ignoring all of that wisdom. Look at the moves he's making, chasing the youth, teaming up with streamers like Aiden Ross, podcasters like Bobby Althoff, and rappers like Yate or Central C. What has any of that really done for his career? Where's the payoff? Has it elevated his artistry? Has it given him a new classic? No. Instead, it feels like desperation, like a man so scared of losing relevance that he'll grab onto anything to look young. And then came Iceman, Episode 3. That was supposed to be his nuke. The big red button moment that would shake the entire industry, expose Kendrick, and remind everyone who the real boss was. The production budget alone looked like a Hollywood blockbuster. Expensive cameras, expensive streams, expensive everything. And yet, after all that money, all that spectacle, all that effort, what did we actually get? Drake previewing mid-level songs with Yate that nobody cared about. Let's talk about the charts. Those Yate collabs debuted at number 53 on Billboard. 53. For Drake, that's embarrassingly low. This is the guy who used to drop a Lucy on SoundCloud and watch it go top 10 overnight. Now he's putting his full machine behind a release, attaching himself to one of the biggest new wave rappers. And he still can't crack the top 50? That's not just a stumble. That's a collapse in momentum. And here is the scary part. The first week is always when hype is at its peak. That's when fans rush to streams. That's when casual listeners check in. If a Drake record can't chart high during that opening window, it means the demand isn't there anymore. The interest is fading. For an artist who built his career on being unavoidable, that's the worst-case scenario. Right now, the formula looks broken. The collabs aren't sticking, the youth chasing looks corny, and the charts are reflecting the decline in real time. Drake's next move isn't just important, it's survival. That first week is always the most important. That S when everybody tunes in to see if a record is worth sticking around for. The curious clicks, the playlist ads, the repeat spins. If the song's hot, it climbs or holds steady. If it's not, it falls fast. And in Drake's case, with that Yate collab, debuting at number 53 wasn't just disappointing. It was humiliating. It told the world, loud and clear, that nobody cared. The song wasn't Doghouse. It was straight-up dog crap. And when you zoom out, the bigger picture looks even worse. Who's really controlling the charts in 2025? Not Drake. The crown belongs to Travis Scott and Kendrick Lamar. They were the only two rappers this year to pull off the impossible, having two separate albums cross 1 billion streams each on Spotify in 2025. Think about that for a second. Kendrick did it with GNX, his latest cultural earthquake, and Damn, an album from all the way back in 2017 that S still racking up streams like it just dropped. Travis Scott matched the feat with Astroworld and Utopia, cementing his name right beside Kendrick's as the most consistent hitmakers of this generation. Meanwhile, Drake, nowhere on that list, not even with his brand new album in 2025. And this is the guy who supposedly has the deepest back catalog in hip-hop. For years, Drake stans bragged that his library was untouchable, that his classics would always keep him on top. But in 2025, those same classics aren't breaking records, and his new material isn't landing. Kendrick, without even dropping a new project this year, still has 2 albums outperforming Drake's latest. That's not a slip-up, that's a dethroning. Look at the receipts. Kendrick's GNX is still outselling Drake's 2025 release months after its drop. Tracks like Luther are still charting in their 50th week, moving more units than Drake's new singles in their very first week. That's the kind of dominance you can't fake. That's the difference between timeless music and filler records designed for playlists. The charts are speaking louder than the captions, louder than the stands, louder than the spin. In 2025, it's Kendrick and Travis shaping the future, while Drake is clinging to the past. You could argue that Take Care still edges out GNX in the grand scheme of Drake ES discography, but here's the cold reality. Take Care hasn't crossed 1 billion streams this year, not once. Meanwhile, Kendrick's Damn, a project from 2017, did. And GNX, it crushed that milestone too. So say what you want about bots, say what you want about industry tricks, but the impact is undeniable. Kendrick is not just leaving a mark on the charts, he is dominating both the streaming numbers and the stadiums. Just look at what went down in Mexico. The receipts speak for themselves. And the stats keep piling up. Take Luther, 6 times platinum in less than a year. That kind of certification speed is unheard of in today's fragmented streaming climate. And if you were wondering who holds the most entries on the Spotify charts right now in 2025, it's not Drake, it's not Travis, it's Kendrick Lamar. His catalog is flooding the charts, old and new, proving that he's the one leaving a sustained impact across the board. This is where the real shift comes in. For over a decade, Drake built his entire empire on numbers. He was the stats guy. Streams, sales, chart positions, that was his language, his bragging rights, his proof of dominance. But right now, Kendrick is beating him at his own game. And not with a brand new release, but with an album that's nearly a year old. That's how wide the gap has become. And here's where it gets even scarier for Drake. Kendrick's momentum isn't just about him, it's about the entire wave surrounding him. Baby Keem is still building heat. Doechii is leveling up. Ray Vaughn is dropping pressure. Schoolboy Q is gearing up. The whole TDE Dave Free orbit is stacked with artists ready to extend this dynasty. Kendrick's not just winning for himself, he's setting the table for a takeover. Hip-hop is clearly in transition. We just witnessed the biggest rap battle of all time, and instead of coming out stronger, the most commercially successful rapper of all time, Drake, looks confused, uncertain, and searching for his next move. The throne isn't just shaky, it's wide open. And right now, Kendrick Lamar is sitting closer to it than anyone else. From a numbers perspective, it's undeniable. Kendrick Lamar has been carrying that post-battle void almost entirely by himself. And the wildest part? He's doing it without fresh music. GNX is almost a year old, yet it's still moving like a brand new release, racking up streams, selling out stadiums, and dictating headlines. That kind of staying power is rare, and it sets up one of the biggest questions in rap right now. What happens next? Because here is the reality. Drake is about to drop his first true solo album since The Beef, since 2023. This project isn't just another release. It's a litmus test. If it doesn't perform at least somewhere in the ballpark of GNX numbers, even a little worse, then we're relooking at a total paradigm shift. We'll have to start asking the uncomfortable questions, not just about who's the best rapper right now, but who's the biggest. And in hip-hop, being the biggest has always dictated the direction of the mainstream. Look back at the lineage. When Kanye West and Lil Wayne ran the charts, the entire sound of the next generation followed their blueprint. Then Drake took over, and his melodic, sing-songy R&B rap hybrid dominated the airwaves for a decade straight. That style became the industry standard, copied by dozens of artists, shaping what mainstream rap sounded like. But now, that formula is cracking. Drake's bread and butter, the melodic hooks, the mumble-adjacent flows, the shallow but catchy vibes, feels played out. It pacified the culture for years, but the appetite is shifting. Meanwhile, Kendrick's resurgence is forcing the game to recalibrate. His music is dense, layered, filled with depth and intention, and yet it's still commercially dominant. That's a dangerous combination for his rivals. And if Kendrick holds the torch into 2026, the ripple effects will be massive. It won't just be about him. His offsprings, Baby Keem, Doechii, Ray Vaughn, and the entire TDE P-Glang family are lined up to carry the next wave. West Coast artistry, storytelling, and conceptual projects could become the mainstream standard again. The next generation of rap fans may grow up with substance as the default, instead of sing-song formulas. For the first time in over a decade, the throne is vulnerable. And if Kendrick truly seizes it, hip-hop's sound, globally and culturally, could pivot away from Drake's formula for good. Kendrick Lamar raised the standard with tracks like Not Like Us, TV Off, Luther, and Euphoria. Those songs didn't just win over the fans, they reignited the spirit of competition in hip-hop. For the first time in years, the game felt alive again. You could feel the tension, the pressure, the excitement. He reminded the culture that rap isn't just about playlists and vibes. It is about skill, impact, and who can command the world's attention. So where do we go from here? That's the million-dollar question. Because from a numbers perspective, the most objective way to measure who's really resonating globally, the answer looks clear. Bigger sales, higher streams, larger concerts. The evidence is piling up, and the scales are tipping. But this is hip-hop, and the future is never set in stone. And speaking of the future, let's not forget AP Rocky finally broke his silence on the whole Drake versus Kendrick saga. In his interview with Elle, Rocky explained why he never clapped back at Family Matters. His words, "The battle was between Kendrick and Drake, not Drake and everybody else who might have said something at the time. That's why I fell back. I just hate the way it's turning out with Drake suing and all that. What part of the game is that? What type of stuff is that? That's none of my business, I guess." Rocky said out loud what a lot of people were already thinking. Why did Drake waste so much time throwing stray shots at random rappers on tracks like Family Matters and Push-Ups instead of focusing directly on Kendrick? It felt like distraction tactics, like his aim was off from the jump. And the lawsuit? That is the final nail in the coffin for some fans who already felt Drake wasn't playing by hip-hop's rules. But here we are, a year and a half after the dust has settled, and the battle still echoes. Drake looks uncertain, Kendrick looks unstoppable, and the throne sits at a crossroads. The future of rap is being written right now, in real time, so I'll leave it at this. Let me know what you think. Who really holds the crown heading into 2026? Is Drake still in the fight, or has Kendrick already snatched the torch? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you want more deep dives into the biggest stories shaking the culture, you already know what to do. Hit that like, smash subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Because trust me, this story, it's far from over.